Right, let's get some reaction now on Dada Morero's budget from DA Johannesburg caucus leader, Belinda Echeozonjoku. Belinda, good to have you. The MMC begins his speech by saying, imagine if you inherited a city that has low cash levels, poor revenue collection, underperformance in revenue collection, losses in water and electricity, 30% and 32% respectively. A city that can't manage its losses. Unspent grants, 762 million. Key municipal entities in overdraft. Debt levels going out the roof. As we speak now, there are no plans to repay loans amounting to 3 billion. Taking all that, putting it at the feet of the DA, saying this was the DA-led administration that put us in this picture. What do you say?
Good evening, Thabo, and good evening to your viewers. Well, the MMC is talking politics. He's a typical politician. He fails to mention that the collection has been in decline since 2015. He spent a lot of time talking about, reminiscing about the time when the city was still shining, which was still Amos Masondo's time, just to deviate from the effects of load shedding and other failures by the ANC. So it's not true that all this reduction in collections has happened under the DA-led administration. It's been in decline for some years, even when the ANC was in government.
Yeah, he invokes the Igoli 2000, the glorious days of Igoli 2000. You say there was lots of money in the city. We managed to keep the lights on, and there were services being rendered to communities. But he says, nonetheless, let's deal with the situation at hand with the little that we have to make things better. Let's talk about the, firstly, the targeted 80.9 billion rands budget in a space and in a world where there is very poor performance as far as revenue collection is concerned. Is that even a budget that will be there for half the things that he wants to do?
Not only, Thabo, not only is it an unrealistic budget, but we've gone through the reports since the MMC sent the reports through, and we raised our concerns as the DA that obviously this is an unfunded budget. It's unrealistic and it's unfunded. And he's not clarifying clearly, obviously to the residents that how he intends raising how he intends doing the revenue enhancement and how he intends raising the monies that he is saying. He's talking about the rebasing exercise that the executive mayor mentioned in his caucus speech as well. But the MMC comes and talk about an increase in the budget. Yeah. So it's clear that the MMC and the executive mayor are definitely not on the same page and leaving the residents confused and the ratepayers are sitting with the consequences.
So let's look at his strategy. Let's look at his plan. He says this is how he plans to rebuild the city's finances. 1, optimize the use of the city's limited resources by doing more with less. 2, improve productivity and manage human resource efficiently. Allocation of resources that support strategic turnaround to key revenue-generating entities. It's a little bit vague. I'm not quite sure what he means by that. Maybe he's got a little bit more of an explanation for you. Intensify interventions on reducing electricity and water losses. That's a big one. Certainly 30% being lost in electricity and 32% being lost in water is something that needs to be corrected. Intensify a revenue enhancement strategy to yield tangible improvements in billing and collection. In a nutshell, what does that mean to you in terms of what
that is exactly what we are asking him how. When more and more people are going off the grid because of the failures of the city as a result of load shedding, for example. We see sewage leaks across the city. I see that he spent quite a bit of money. He's promising quite a bit of money on water infrastructure and wastewater treatment and all of that. But he's not telling the residents how he's going to do that and how he's going to raise the funds. You cannot borrow from Peter to pay Paul. In some of the reports, you are even seeing that even a national treasury is commenting that it's unfunded. It's not clear unless he has a magic wand on how he's going to raise these funds, perhaps he will be able to give us more information, because the line items that we had looked at, it's clearly very unrealistic and an unfunded budget. And the revenues that he's mentioning that he will collect, we doubt as the DA that he will be able to collect it.
Yeah. Well, the MMC seems to believe he'll do something that you have failed to do, but certainly they managed to do during the glorious years of Igoli 2000. One, exploring alternative funding options and partnerships, but two, managing their cash a little bit better to rebuild the cash reserves that can be a springboard for future expansion and capital investment, saying this is what we're going to do that obviously you as the DA could not manage to do.
Thabo, I didn't get the last bit.
I'm saying he's going to better come up with alternative funding options and partnerships, but two, he's saying he's going to manage the kitty a little bit better in terms of rebuilding the cash reserves, saying that's something that you, of course, did not manage to do, and that's what he thinks is going to be his strategy.
Not true, Thabo. You cannot mention the ANC and the kitty, holding the kitty in one hand. The ANC has shown over the years that they are unable to be only not to deal with money, and they're unable to be transparent when it comes to dealing with the money of the residents. It is the ratepayers who play a big chunk and pay a big chunk of the budget, and he is not even mentioning some of the regions, for example, where the money will be spent. He's taking money from regions where people are spending quite a bit of money on rates and services, and he's taking it to other regions without being clear on how these alternative funding models will be done. But also, remember, we didn't have a city manager for a very long time. It is always easier if you have a permanent city manager to be able to raise some of these funds, because some of it cannot be done with acting city managers. And now there is a city manager, and they are able to utilize this, which they have stifled when we were in government by not supporting even the 2 billion DBSA loan, which was one of the funding models that the DA had proposed. But yet they came back with this to also get it passed through council.
So one of the things that the MMC says, which I suppose will be a bit of a trouble for the residents, is that I've got to hike tariffs. But from what he says is my hands are tied. These are increases that have been implemented by our bulk services suppliers, such as Eskom and Rand Water. So in that regard, those particular areas are going to see tariffs hiking by 14.92%. As far as electricity is concerned, water tariff 9.3%, sanitation tariff 9.3%, refuge tariff just below 10%, also around there. And the property rates are also going to go up, from what I'm seeing here, by 2%. By 2%. So do you think that's where he's hoping property rates is the second largest revenue collection point for the city. That's where he hopes to make up this money?
Yes, you can see, even though the property rate is only increased by 2%, you can see that the rest of the increases are hidden in some of the tariffs. And you can clearly see it. And my view is that the MMC could have done much better, because if he's so confident in his alternative funding models and also his intergovernmental relations that he says that they have improved or reactivated, then they could be speaking to Eskom about lowering some of these tariffs, especially for electricity. And considering the fact that residents, half of the time, they are not getting electricity, even during time when there is no load shedding. So he could have done better. And if he says if he's so confident about this alternative funding models and his intergovernmental relations, surely he could have discussed better with Eskom and national government to get some of these tariffs reduced.
All right, Belinda, appreciate your time. Thanks for coming on. DA Johannesburg caucus leader Belinda Echeozonjoku there, responding to the MMC's budget vote presented today for 2023-2024.